I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Hey everyone, welcome back to the News du Jour, a calmer space to consume the news. So just as a heads up here at the top, I'm a little bit under the weather today. I'm not feeling my best. So if you hear a difference in my voice, that's what it is. And if you're here for the first time, I'm usually a little more peppy than this. Anywho, I do have a few kind of quicker updates here at the top for you guys that I wanted to go over before we get into some longer news stories. So first up, Houston is keeping kids out of school for one more day, but has announced that it is lifting the boil water notice. So woohoo on that. They have turned things around and everyone's safe. So that's all that matters, right? I also wanted to let you guys know that there is the potential for severe weather throughout the American South. Things like tornadoes and tennis ball size hail due to a storm that's moving through. So be sure to tune in to your local weather channels if you live in Louisiana, Tennessee, Alabama, or Mississippi, or really any of those surrounding states. And lastly, for our quick updates, I wanted to let you guys know that late afternoon/evening yesterday, the U.S. actually voted to codify same-sex marriage, which is very exciting as a landmark moment in history. And we will be sure to cover this in depth in tomorrow's episode and let you guys know what is unique about this and what is changing and what the significance of it really is. So we'll dive deep into that tomorrow. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump into today's news. So first up, Tehran was rooting for the U.S. And here's a hint. It wasn't about soccer. So now the U.S. just beat the Iranian soccer team in the World Cup, but there was a lot more at play than just the game. As we know, very intense riots have been ongoing in Iran, with even the UN investigating through their Human Rights Council. But in Iran's capital, Tehran, you could hear throughout the streets and through apartment buildings, the Iranian people cheering for the U.S. when they scored a goal, cheering for the U.S. when they won. What the heck? They were playing against Iran. Well, it has to do with freedom. Iran and the U.S. didn't exactly have a chummy relationship prior to these protests, but the U.S., whether it lives up to it or not, is kind of a symbol of freedom around the world. And that's what the women and citizens of Iran are fighting for right now. Freedom. But it goes further than that. Tensions at the games have been abnormally high because protesters, when it comes to the situation in Iran, have been camped out outside the games. And pro-government Iranians have actually been confronting them, and some people even had to be escorted away. Then the American team posted a picture to their social media that changed the Iranian flag in favor of the protesters. And the Iranian government actually was calling for the U.S. to be expelled from the games because of it. So these games have really gone beyond the sport of soccer, beyond the World Cup. They're becoming a geopolitical showdown of sorts. And when the U.S. won 1-0, well, the people of Iran knew where we stand with them. So they stood with us too. And next up for today, we are diving into the railroads and the potential for a strike. So I was avoiding this topic, you guys. I'm just going to go ahead and be honest. I was avoiding talking about this because I really felt like it was going to be peacefully resolved pretty quickly and wasn't going to be something we really needed to cover on here. But it's lingering, you guys. So I have a lot to catch you up on when it comes to this topic, and I'll go ahead and apologize. So first off, I'm sorry for not covering this earlier, but there are a bunch of things we need to go over. Starting with, there are a number of different railway unions, so they have differing opinions and priorities. But one thing they do agree on is that they haven't been getting a fair shake. They want more time off for sick days, more pay, and just generally better working conditions. So they actually threatened a strike weeks back, maybe months back, if an agreement could not be reached with the freight business leaders. So the leaders threw together an agreement that gave these workers more leeway. But you know what? It just didn't go far enough. And all the different unions took a look at the fine print, really read through it. And after a few weeks, all four have rejected it. So we are heading towards a holiday season that is already riddled with supply chain issues and now potentially facing a railway standstill, a railway strike. This means that gifts won't arrive on time, or medicines, or it could just in general severely put a dent in the US economy that gets a huge boost around Christmas time, obviously. So Congress is swinging into action after President Biden called on them to act, trying to prevent such a dire situation. They have vowed to pass legislation that would prevent a strike. So we'll see what they come up with and if they're actually able to get that passed. Stay tuned. And then next up for today, we have Elon versus Apple. Oh my goodness. There's just never a dull moment over there with Elon at Twitter. So Elon Musk seems to feed off of controversy, you guys. He's always picking a public fight. And the latest is with Apple. A flurry of tweets released by the billionaire claimed that Apple is threatening to remove Twitter from their app store. That would make it a lot harder for a lot of people to tweet. Musk is accusing Apple of censorship. But at the end of the day, if they don't agree with what's being said on the platform, they have every right not to partake. They're not preventing anyone from speaking or tweeting. They just don't want to be associated with a platform that promotes bigotry and allows for bigotry. In one tweet, after stating that Apple had stopped advertising on Twitter, Musk asked his audience, quote, "Do they hate free speech in America?" End quote. And the answer is simple. No, we don't hate free speech. We hate hate. After centuries, we are moving away from racial hatred. Even Mitch McConnell just yesterday came out definitively stating that white supremacy has no place in the Republican Party. Not just in America, though, but the global community is refusing to be a part of it, be near it, or be associated with it. And Twitter is becoming a breeding ground for it. And that is why people are leaving the platform in droves and why advertisers are refusing to spend there. We are moving forward and leaving hatred behind. It's not censorship. It's disgust. And that is the news du jour. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote, "When times get tough, we don't give up, we get up." If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use to listen. A rate and review or shout out on social media would mean the world to us and help us be able to keep creating the news du jour. But the best way to support all of our work is to become a patron at www.patreon.com/sugarfreemedia. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram and just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour.
Broadcasting from Oklahoma.